Today I'm speaking on family, and the scripture I'm using is Ephesians chapter 6. Now, this chapter is normally it's a chapter that's well known for spiritual warfare, but it's a strange place to start. But it deals with family, right? Chapter 6, verse 10 to 12 says, "Be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power." Verse 11 says, "Put on the full armor of God." And the main part I want to be focused on here is verse 12. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers of the dark world, against the spiritual forces of evil." And many times I find that in families, most of our spiritual warfare takes place in the house. But one thing I think we need to remember is that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. That means even though Linda and I might have a quarrel, it's not against her, it's against the issue at hand. I'm not fighting with her, but it's what happened. Um, I think the area where most spiritual battles happen is in the family. And the ways of God that's most under attack is the family. If you look at marriage, if marriage as God intended, it's being shredded at the moment. As in, there's like so less of it that we can see. The next generation is going to be so confused, in my opinion. I think the way God intended the family to be, it just makes sense. If you look at there's a mother, there's a father, there's a child. The child will learn from the father, and eventually the child will become a father one day, or will be a mother one day, and they'll pass on that knowledge. It just makes sense, right? But with the way the world is going now, it's just corrupting the way people think. I just want to share a few things I've learned as a dad and a husband in the 40 years of living, 40 years, 16 years of marriage, and 12 years of parenting. Number one that I've learned is my wife and children are unique and special as I am. Each one has their own gifts and abilities. Now, if I look at myself, Malcolm by himself is good, but Malcolm with his family is great. Because, at home, I look at it as, hey, I'm like a Superman in the house. Because, hey, yeah, can you open this can? Can you open this bottle? Or can you tie this shoelace? Or, can you teach me to tie this shoelace? Oh, this door handle is not working. Then dad comes there with a screwdriver. And, you learn all these things as you go along. It's not something you learn overnight. But I'm grateful to my dad for teaching me all these things, teaching me how to be a good husband, how to be a good father. I am the way I am because of what I've seen, because of what I've learned. I've seen other people who went through certain struggles, and I say, you know what, I don't want to go down that same road, so let me try changing it a bit, or let me try and do something different. Let me get some scriptures. Let me go into the Word, find out, okay, what was different about the way they did it. Um, I think, yeah, number two was the best gifts I can give Lyndall and the kids is an honest statement that I was wrong. And a few times I found that it makes such a difference in the way they think as well. Because um, I know with Reese, if I say I'm wrong, it's like she understands that as much as this is dad, he's in that place of authority that he can also be wrong, and he's willing to admit it. So with me as a child, if I make a mistake, there's nothing wrong with me saying I made a mistake. I'm wrong. It's what you do afterwards as well. It's I made a mistake. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me apologize and let's find a way to fix it. It's God that's working in them to see that it's okay to be wrong. Romans chapter 3 verse 23 says, "All have sinned and have fallen short of the glory of God." So we're not perfect people, but we are made perfect through Christ. I know some people who will never say sorry or never admit to being wrong, but it's God that's doing the work in us to help us to be able to admit our wrongs. Number three, another gift I can give my children is to stand by them when they have messed up. And I think I witnessed this firsthand when I was a kid. I think I was about 10, 11 years old. And a friend of myself, we were playing with a cricket ball. And I threw the cricket ball and it went through the window of our neighbor's house. And the way we both bolted, we ran for our lives. But when we went home, and I think a couple hours later, the owner of the house came there with the cricket ball in his hand. And he knocked on the door, and I wasn't there, I was hiding. So my dad answered the phone, answered the door, and he says, Pastor Mark, your son threw the cricket ball into my window. He broke the window. And so my dad immediately called me, Malcolm, is this your cricket ball? Did you break the window? Yes, I did. And so at that moment, my dad looked at the guy and said, okay, you broke the window, we'll fix the window. No problem. So this happened about, I think, in the afternoon. So we went to the hardware store. First, we went and measured the window. We went to the hardware store, we bought the glass, and we bought the putty, and we bought the paint. And we went back to the guy's house. And I mean, we lived in such a small community that the neighbors could see, that Pastor Mark is now fixing someone else's window. But I think the part that caused me the most pain was having embarrassed my dad to such an extent. It was something I did, but he was having to pay for it, or he was having to fix the window. But I think the greatest affirmation was having my dad stand with me by my side. Even though I messed up, he identified with me in what I did wrong. And he was there to help me make it right. For a kid, I think that unconditional love is so important. To know that even though I'm wrong, my parents still love me enough to say, you know what, you did wrong, but let's fix it. How can we fix it? Another instance we had that I can remember now is when Reese and I were in the Kum bookstore, the Christian bookstore in Pietermaritzburg. And we were walking through the shop, and Reese saw this book, and I was showing her as well. Angus Buchan wrote a book, and it was all about his adventures or what he had done, but it was all in like a kiddies format book. And she saw this, and when she heard the name Angus Buchan, she knew who it was, because we often tease in the house, and I said it's Granny's uncle, because Granny loves Angus Buchan's ministry so much. And so she saw this book and she loved it, and all the pictures, there was a horse and everything. And I think in her excitement, she tore one of the pages. And this is now in the bookstore. And so I just, at that moment, I thought, this is a teachable moment, where I can either teach my child here, you know what, let's close the book and let's walk away. We don't know. I saw what happened, but no one else saw, right? I thought, no, that I can teach her something here, that if you do something wrong, you need to own up for it. You need to take responsibility for it. And so we took the book and we went. I said, now we have to pay for the book. And so we went to the counter and we paid for it. And she knew that, hey, we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the money to buy this book that I was thinking at that time, like 140 Rand. And it was a lot of money, but at that moment she knew that, hey, when I do wrong, that someone's going to have to pay for it. Whether it be me or my parents, or somebody's going to have to pay for it. And I think it's a very important part, a teachable moment. Number 4 was, there's a difference between a man and a woman. Genesis 1 verse 27 reads, so God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. If I take an example of Lyndall and myself, my wife and I, we are so different, We can walk, for example, we walk into Mr. Price and they have a display with a bunk bed and there's a duvet and that's it, right? There's a bunk bed, there's a whole display. I will walk in, I will see the bunk bed and I'll go and maybe shake it a bit. Is it firm? The steps, maybe Ryan, try going up the steps. Let's see how strong it is. Lie on the bed. Oh, maybe you can fall down. Has it got that barrier? Okay, that's about it for me. Feel the mattress, maybe that's about it. But Lyndall will walk in, she'll look at the same thing, but she will see the duvet is blue. The pillows are a certain type of blue. The curtains, the carpet. Now, I wouldn't think of all those things. And we are so different. We're looking at the same picture, but we see things from so different perspectives. If I see a problem, if I see a door handle is broken, I will think, already my brain is working as to what tools I need, how I need to fix it. Because that's how I'm wired. Men are different, women are different. We see things from a different perspective. Number 5 is, we tend to marry that disown part of ourselves. Or we tend to look for partners that will fulfill that one part that we don't like to be involved in, that I lack in, if I can put it that way. There used to be an old saying that it used to be opposites attract. But I've been corrected in that part. It says it's the correct psychological way to express it is that we are drawn to like a partner who is strong in areas in which we are weak in. So normally, you'll see an extrovert will be attracted to an introvert. Now, if I look at I think the closest I can go is home, right? If I look at myself and Lyndall, we are so different. Lyndall's a dreamer. She can think of things. She can plan ahead. She can think. When she wanted to do a degree, she saw herself walking across the stage the day she started. Now, with me, I'm not like that. If I get into a certain place, I'm happy here. Let me stay here. That's good enough for me. But she's not like that. She thinks very differently. And I think that's a part of me that she helps to fulfill. That she can dream the big dreams, but me, I can help to make it come to pass, but I won't see that dream. She sees the dream and she'll share it with me, and we'll talk about it, and we'll say, okay, that's okay. How can we put it into practice? What can we do? If someone told me 6 years ago that I'd be standing here today, nah, I would have said, nah, this is nonsense. You're talking nonsense. Because for us in Pietermaritzburg, I was comfortable being there. It's a small community. Everything is close by. There was not much of dreaming to be done. You're comfortable there. And family is there. When Reese was born, it was just, oh, mommy, 5 minutes away. You can drop Reese off and we can continue with what we need to do. But whereas now, I said, hey, we moved to Joburg and everything is so far, and who do we know there? And, I came up with all these objections. But God has different plans for each and every one of us. He has a place where He's taking us to. And we're just going to trust Him in that journey. And if I think about it, life will be so boring if we married a person identical to us. We need that little bit of oomph, that fighting. It makes marriage fun. It makes life fun, actually, to have those friends even. Now, the enemy wants to break families down. And we all come from different walks of life, from not so perfect families. But God thought of that too, and He gave us the church, our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. This is the church family. And I really found a home in church, because at home it was just me. When I was up until the age of 15, it was just myself, my dad, and my mom. It was just three of us. My brother came 15 years later. But I found a home in church where I didn't have brothers and sisters growing up. So these were my brothers and sisters. I look forward to going to church because I had so much fun with all my friends. And church was really a place that I call home. I learned a lot in church. Serving in church helped me to really grow. Because when you serve in church, people notice you, and they want to see, they see what you're doing, and they want to they want to copy what you're doing. They want to help as well because they're seeing what it's doing in your life. The design of the family is protection. Sometimes we choose to come out of that protection. I think if I look at an example, I look at my brother, and at home everything was found for him. But at a young age, he decided, no, I don't want this. There's too much rules. And he wanted to leave. And he went and he left. And I honestly believe that God helped him to see what it's like when you leave that protection and you want to go out on your own. Then you see that how much you need God and how much you need your family. Last night while I was preparing, Lyndall was trying to help me, with the preparing. And so she showed me a video on the Navy SEALs. And the guy, I think he was like a general or something, and he was giving a speech, and he opened with these lines. He says, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. Right? And number one, he says, by making your bed, you accomplish the first task of the day. It's a small sense of pride. The second thing he said was, it encourages you to do another task and another and another. Number three, the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to get the big things right. And he says, if you're having a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And I think that's when you come to that bed, it's like, normally if you see a bed that's messy, it's like, I gotta make the bed before I get into it. But if you come to a bed that's made, it's a good thing, right? And it gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be a better day. Um, I think family is very important to me because it's what God created for us. The church is a setting in which God puts the lonely into a family. I think Rick Warren put it perfectly. He says, church is not a place you go to. Church is a family you belong to. We live in such an impersonal culture. If I look at it, people are electronically connected through texting, Facebook, Twitter, but people are lonely. There's many people, that I work with currently, and we were just chatting the other day, and they were saying, even though they come to work, they have a family at home, their mother and father, the kid, they say, but they're still lonely. There's no partner. There's um, there's no one they can actually connect with. When you get home, you want someone that you can actually talk to. They're longing for real relationships, even though there's a world where we have a million friends, but we can still be lonely. I read an article lately about how people in Japan, now this really shocked me, right? People in Japan are so busy that you can order people now you can rent a family, basically. This was an article that was written in 1993, I think. You can rent a family. Now, this is the quote in the article, right? It says, in Japan, you can rent a family. Elderly Japanese who are isolated from their children by by the frantic race of modern life can rent a family for lunch and a few hours. Just call, the name is here, Nippon Kokashi Honbu, and ask for a son, daughter, grandchild, whatever relative you want, and that type will show up at your door and they will greet you as if they haven't seen you in years. You can rent a family. Now, of course, the service isn't cheap. 3 hours with your family costs, I think this is that 1990, cost $1,130 plus transportation. The person who founded the business, Satsuki Ohina, founded the business in 1990 when, as a businesswoman, she was too busy to visit her mother. So the company staff would visit her instead. And Ohina, she deemed it a success, and her observations of her customers is not surprising. She said, what is common about the clients is that they are thirsty for the human love. So imagine a woman decided, hey, I can make a business of this just by the relationship she had with her mother. The sad thing is there's millions of lonely people who need a church family. 3 weeks before Christmas, 1993, 43-year-old man, his name was Wolfgang Dirks. He died while watching television in his Berlin apartment. His rent continued to be paid out of his bank account, and none of his neighbors even noticed he had passed away. 5 years later, when his bank account was depleted, the landlord entered the apartment and found his skeletal remains in the corner, in the chair. The TV guide in his lap was turned to December the 3rd, 1993. His TV set had long since burnt out. It's a sad story, but every year thousands of people are found dead, days or weeks after their solitary deaths. How many thousands of people there must be out there? It's so surprising that in the current world we live in, we tend to take it for granted how important family is. I know living up here in Johannesburg, I've been so disconnected with my immediate family because we only get to chat over phone or over WhatsApp call, whatever, something like that. And I used to live in this house, I used to be with these people every single day of my life. And now it's a disconnection. We hardly communicate. And I think life takes us through many journeys. We find ourselves in different places, but we still need to keep that connection with family because family is important. I honestly believe, when in times of trouble, in times of need, they've stood with us. And it's what those people, they might not have done something or done anything or paid for anything, but they were there with you. When you're going through those storms, you need someone there with you. If it's a friend, that friend is the best friend you'll ever have. If they're going to stand with you through your trials, they are the best friend you'll ever have. I think that's why we exist as a church. We are here to give that support, to give that encouragement, to understand where people are coming from, not to judge. The church is, I honestly believe the church is not here to judge, but to help where we can. And we are the place where God puts the lowly into a family. But you are the hands and feet of Christ. God works through us. You see, the other day I I spoke to my mom, and she was telling me that she spoke to someone about Christ. And I think to myself, how easy it is for these people, for my parents to talk to other people about Christ. And yet I struggle, right? My mom was telling me she spoke to this girl. I was asking, like, okay, so where did you meet this person? How did you end up telling her? And she says, no, she went for a massage, a foot massage, and the person who was massaging her feet, she started talking to her and speaking about Christ, and she eventually led her to the Lord. And she took her number down, and they were communicating over the phone. And I've heard many stories like this. I mean, I think a week before my dad passed, we were sitting with him in his bed, and he told us of how he was telling us how important it is to have Christ in our lives and to share this with people. I know he was ministering for many years, right? As I think from the age of 20, 21, 22, he was ministering throughout South Africa with tent evangelism. And so he was telling me, he says, Malcolm, you know how easy it is to talk to somebody. He says, the one day I went to somebody, I went to go and fix my shoe. And the guy who was fixing the shoe, he says, how's your soul? The guy says, oh no, it's good leather. And he says, no, I'm not talking about this physical soul. I said, how is your soul? Are you ready? That day is going to come. Are you prepared? And he says, that's how he ended up witnessing to the guy and he led him to the Lord. But it's a simple question. It's a simple, us putting that me aside and letting God take control. In Pietermaritzburg, the church that we went to, they used to go evangelizing into the city center. Just take 10 or 20 guys, go there and let's just do this thing. And I found that by doing that, it takes you out of your shell. You're in that moment, the person is there. You need to talk to them. You need to tell them something. But witnessing helps you the more you do it, the easier it gets. I think the God has put something in every one of us, right? And we can share that with somebody. I think of myself, if I know that, okay, there's people, the water in this place is not good, but I found a source of the good water. I will go and tell everyone. If I can see they're thirsty, I will go and tell them, hey, come here, there's the good water is here. Why don't you come get it from here? And I think similarly with us, sharing Christ has done so much for us. I think for me personally, he's stopped me from getting into a lot of stuff, right? But he's brought me back in line with where he wants me to be. I think if we can share what we have with others, we can see they're thirsty. We see that people need God. And I think we can share the testimony with them. We need to reach out and show the love of Jesus to those who are lonely. I think God has big plans for each and every one of us, but it takes us getting out of our shells, being prepared to go that extra mile, being prepared to stand up here and minister. It's not easy. But it's something that I gotta believe God for. I gotta prepare beforehand, but I gotta say, God, it's you that's doing it. I'm being obedient to what you want me to do. So yeah, that's my word on family, and hope you're blessed.